Well, we're doing this one now. Uh, I just found out I'm up on I hit the selection of video selection on YouTube, and I'm posted up there, baby. I've made it. I'm on my way, hopefully. Who knows where? Alright. Hot in hell down here. This country's got two temperatures, wet and hot. I posted this, and I made this up, and I'm talking about it. But this part where Hegseth says that the Iranian leader was disfigured. But I have to tell you, I don't care what they did to that guy. He's still going to be better looking than Hegseth is. And it's Friday the 13th, folks. You know what Friday the 13th means, right? It means you should stay in bed if you're really superstitious. What's the drink? I think Black Russians are a drink you should have. That'll really make Friday the 13th something. A few of those and you'll remember the day, the year, the month, or the guy you slept with, or the girl you slept with. You know, whatever. So anyhow, I said, put on the Facebook that Trump should stay in bed today, and so should the rest of the megas, because it's Friday the 13th. Because we all know that karma's a bitch, and Friday the 13th is karma's day. If there's any day that's karma's day, Friday the 13th is. That's just like the second one we've had already this year. I don't know if you have two or more a year, what that means. I have to look it up, you know. I always liked Friday the 13th because, as I said in my live video, it's a day I would love to take exams. You have to understand that teachers, usually a lot of teachers marked it on a curve. But whether the teacher marked it on a curve or the curve was more favorable to the student or not, didn't make any difference to me. I aced the test. I don't know why. The test was always about stuff I knew. You know, I didn't have to even think about it. I just started writing answers, essays, whatever it was, you know. If I handed in a paper, I wanted to hand it in on Friday the 13th. Coming up to that day was a bitch, but once I got it done, you know, and I handed it in, it was, you know, it was like the top paper in the class. And trust me, I wasn't the top person in any class I was in, except debating. You can't win against a stubborn Irish American, you know, and I'm part Irish, so, you know. I'm Irish, English, Scottish, and English, and a little bit of American Indian. Enough if I want to push the issue, I can get a piece of a casino or get some dividends from a casino, but I don't want that. I don't want anything to do with the casinos. You know, my luck, I'll be the one that gets arrested when the casinos go bad. So what else, people? Boy, is it dusty in this room. I just cleaned everything before, and now I gotta do it again. I don't know what's going on. Oh, I turned the fan on, that's why. That just moves all the old dust around. So what else have I got to talk about? Alright, we got a plane, two oil, I don't want to call them, flying oil tankers, I guess. They're there for refueling purposes. Two of them went down. One was a crash. One managed to land itself. The other crashed, killing 6 people aboard it. I think we've got up to somewhere close to around, I think we're in double figures now with Americans that died in the war. And most of them were shot. Most of them were casualties of battle. A couple of them were friendly fire. It's getting out of control over there. Or there is no control over there. Too many different countries involved in that. You know, that was a problem in the Gulf War. You know, but they had one commander. I don't think they have one commander. Now you've got the Israelis doing whatever the hell they want to, and the Americans doing whatever the hell they want to. But I don't think they talk to each other too much about that. Americans don't want to be associated with genocide, although they were supposedly the ones that took out the 160 kids in the school. But I don't think they did it on purpose. You know, not on the first day and one of the first waves. That would have been the dumbest thing they could have possibly done if they did it on purpose. Which means Trump probably ordered it. But anyhow, you got. That's just that's like a peacetime accident. And nobody wants to see that happen. It just makes no sense. A Michigan synagogue and a Virginia University were both attacked. The Michigan place was attacked by a veteran who was turned out dishonorably discharged because he was an ISIS supporter, and he managed to kill somebody at the synagogue in Michigan. No, was that the synagogue? No, I think that's the university where that happened. I don't know, because the synagogue was a car that was driven into it with explosives packed in, so started a fire and everything. These are just I don't know. I don't understand that. I don't know why I can understand being sympathetic to a people, but not an organization such as ISIS, okay? But I can understand you being sympathetic to a people, the Arab people, the Palestinians or something like that. I can understand you being sympathetic to the people, because the people are the ones that suffer in war and in combat and stuff like that. The soldiers, they suffer after everything's done, So, anyhow, oh yeah, Trump's out there trying to take over Cuba now, and he just wants all this power. The problem is that we're going to have troops, eventually we're going to end up with troops all over the world, and that's not an effective way to use your military, especially if you leave them there as like hall monitors, just watching what's going on, because then they become not so good. They're not combat ready. They're not ready for anything, and they tend to start beating up civilians and whatnot because they're bored, and they need shit to do. And they take it out on the civilian population rather than taking it out on their own military, because they're, I don't know, but they do that, That's not a good idea either. There's just a lot of good ideas out there anymore, folks. And you got Donnie's running around, and he wants all these countries. He's got Venezuela. But as far as my understanding is, there are now troops on the ground in Venezuela. I've seen videos from Venezuela that claim they're troops. But I talked to all my Venezuelan friends yesterday. And there's a whole family of people around here. They're all dog walkers and whatnot. And most of them are pretty intelligent. They speak English. And I can tell you right now that they can't go back. They don't want to go back. They don't like their country. Because nothing much has changed, It's still, they live a good life here. Like the dog walker family lives in a big house, They have the house themselves. I think they own it. I'm not sure. They own a nice house. Everybody's comfortable, They've got everything they want, sound equipment wise and everything else, girlfriend wise. They've all got everything going for them, and it's just going home isn't something that they want to do. They don't support the government, and from what I've heard, the government hasn't changed its policies so much. They actually got tighter. So it's very difficult to get information from there. And that's what my friends told me too. She said it's very difficult to get to find out what's going on back there because everything's really, really, really tightened up down there. So it's not, in that respect, there's no difference than from when they got rid of the bus driver. He was, and I keep telling him, I says, he's not even, I don't think he's even Venezuelan. He was a bus driver in Colombia. He might have been Venezuelan that came over here and worked as a bus driver, but he was a bus driver. That's his claim to fame before he got involved with Chavez, Maduro, that's his name. Yeah. But he's in jail, and I think he's living, we're paying him, we're taking care of his wife and everything else, And you have Chavez's daughter, still lives in the United States. I think she might still be associated with the UN from Venezuela, and she's still got what, 2.6 or 2.7 million dollars in the bank account down in the Caymans, and so does Chavez. Has a lot of gold stored all over the world too. So maybe that's what Trump's waiting to make a deal with that, but he's not going to make a deal with that. The minute he makes that deal, he's dead. And then we have this thing with music that's going on, and this one I really don't understand. They're talking about they're saying that they just can't call Western music white music, and then we just can't call our music African music. There's an African singer that's singing this. And I said, well, don't you remember the music that some of the best music that I'd heard from out of Paul Simon in years was when he hooked up with that African group. That was some really good music, and reggae artists and whatnot have influenced American music for a long time. Americans don't handle reggae real well. They can play it, they can play in the band, but they can't. They don't have the chops to sing it real well. But who cares? I mean, all this, it's reggae. It's not black music. It's reggae. Reggae was loved by everybody. Everything that Paul Simon did, both communities just loved it. I think the white people liked the music better than the black people did, and it was black. It was basically very heavily African influenced music. And I spend a lot of time doing this, and I just don't get the separation in the music industry. And this one artist is saying the same thing. It's music. We're just expressing a different point of view, maybe, but it's music. Folk music is yes, that's even as far as the that's territorial in the United States. Different parts of the United States have different types of folk music. But I think music in general transcends any color barrier or religious barrier going. So I don't know, why we're calling it something that it isn't, It's like you have, CNN has a show called African Voices. And I said, look, man, it's not just African voices, they're people, it's human voices, And that's what I would call it if I was me, and then I wouldn't just have you get people from all over the world talking together. You get them together and talk about things, But it doesn't work that way, I guess. Alright, you know the deal. Check out. Check, please. Time for me to go. Rough day today. You'll see it on the live video. But in the meantime, subscribe to my channel. You'll get notices about anything I do that's exciting, which is probably you'll never see a notice from me, but subscribe to the channel and do me a favor, it just helps support me and the channel and makes me look better, and I get my picture up everywhere, and I love that, you know, because I'm really a good-looking guy, man. I really am, you know what I mean? All right, guys, that's it for me today. Hit the subscribe button on your way out, and I will see you mañana.